everybody, it's Brock, and today we got a brand new episode of All About. A lot of times people ask me for recommendations on what fish they should get and how they should add it to this certain gallon aquarium, so I figured let's make a series on it. Starting at the very small 15-gallon saltwater tank, we're going to begin the series off on what you should add in this tank of this size, and then we're pretty much just going to go up from there over time. Now, a typical setup for a 15-gallon tank is 1-inch sand bed with a decent live rock structure that usually has a rock on the left, a few rocks on the right, and then one on top, creating a nice little cave for the fish to hide under and explore. A 15-gallon tank is only 24 inches in length, 12 inches in width and height, or some of those typical cubicle shaped ones will only have about 15 inches in length, and then with perspective sides on the length and width. So you want to be very specific with who you're actually adding to the tank. Some tanks like the Fluvols will have a filter built into the tank, which can be very convenient on the back. It won't take up the actual room of the tank. Otherwise, you'll have to get a hang on the back filter that can definitely take up some room of the tank on the inside and the outside. Now that we have a good picture of what the tank looks like, let's go over each fish that I'd recommend in this size aquarium. I'm going to try and list off pros and cons for each fish so that you can have a good idea of what works for you and your tank. Now, our first one on the list, very easy to guess, is the clownfish. Now, specifically, I'd like to recommend the Ocellaris clowns or any of the designer clowns like the mochas, the blizzards, the black ice. There's so many of them out there now, but mainly trying to hit on the aquacultured clownfish. I wouldn't really recommend getting something like a tomato clown or a big maroon clown because, like I said, they do get big and they also get extremely territorial in the tank, like to the point where they will be the only fish in there. Now, for these Ocellaris clowns, being aquacultured allows them for a very hardy fish, but also one that does well in the tank setting. So you don't have any issues with them getting to eat. Like if they're eating frozen, they'll eat pellets, they can even eat flakes, they'll pretty much eat anything. They usually do not have such a headache on trying to get them to eat, and they're also pretty hardy being aquacultured, so things that happen in the tank, say a spike, or you acclimated them too quick, different things like that, they're usually tough enough to survive it. Clownfish can also be paired together for a great sight in the tank, and maybe even breeding of baby clownfish, so that's always a fun thing to have is two matching clownfish in the tank that can chase each other around. Clownfish are also a great caregiver to someone who is wanting to eventually add corals or inverts into the tank. Clownfish will take care of a variety of corals like brains, anemones, and many other LPS corals. It's really fun to watch him whenever you'll feed pellets and he'll scoop up too many pellets in his mouth and then he'll bounce around to his corals that he hosts and drop pellets on top of them. Very awesome to see. Some cons for clownfish though. Some clownfish have been known to get territorial in a tank while in there long enough. So a smaller tank means the clownfish will have a majority control over it. Now this doesn't always happen. Most clownfish will find their spot and stick to it and have a good time with the other fish that end up joining the tank. But there are still some cases where you do end up with a very territorial fish. With that territorial nature, they can also redecorate an aquarium. And by that, I mean they can move frags around and even fan the sand up into the power heads, causing the tank to look very cloudy and stop up your filters. So that is another thing you will have to look out for. The second fish I'd recommend in a 15-gallon aquarium is a sand sifting goby. Specifically the yellow watchman gobies or a shrimp goby or even a diamond goby at times. These fish are great in these tanks. They can also be paired with a pistol shrimp in which they have that symbiotic relationship where they dig holes together, they help each other find food, and it's just a really fun sight to watch, especially in a small tank like that. They're usually out and easy to find in the tank. They're going to keep the sand bed clean. They constantly sift the sand looking for food, which can be great if you tend to have that brown and green colored sand beds. These guys will get in there and start sifting it around so it stays pretty and white. Gobies do not travel far distances, so a smaller tank is great for them, as they tend to find a specific spot in the tank, dig that hole down in the rock, and then guard it day in and day out. Cons for gobies, they do tend to find that specific cave in the tank and will guard it with their life, which sometimes can lead to competition between other fish. Say you have a clownfish that really likes that side too, but the goby dug his hole there, you can definitely see some aggression there. Usually not to the point where you see a fish perish, but you will see some nipped fins, and you might want to do something to try to help them not be so territorial. They also need to be the only bottom-dwelling goby in the tank. I definitely pick one or a pair to go in the tank, because in a tank this small, they will definitely fight another species. So if you put a yellow watchman and a diamond goby in there, I can promise you they're going to be fighting over territory. Number 3 on our list for a 15-gallon aquarium, the great fish for it is a damselfish. Specifically the blues, the coupangs, your yellowtails, and your talbots. I would definitely avoid the ones that are called the three stripes and the domino damsels, as they get very huge. I'm talking they can get 4 to 6 inches big, sometimes even larger than that, and just become a pest in the tank. They will beat everyone up. Those two are better off in a predatory tank. Now, pros for damsels, they are one of the hardiest fish you can find in the saltwater hobby. You can put these fish in an uncycled tank and they will live through it. They can also survive some of the worst tank crashes as well. So if you're new and you're a beginner in the hobby and you are just getting used to taking care of the levels in this tank, this is a great fish to have, as if you do mess something up, they'll usually come out on top. They're also very quick to eat. For a beginner learning the ropes of all there is to know in the saltwater hobby, having things go your way is a big help. So a fish that eats quickly when first introduced and will eat a variety of different things is a great convenience to have. Cons for the damselfish, of course, damsels can become extremely aggressive in the tank against other fish, even their own kind, as they are so territorial. Talbots and sapphire damsels have been the most peaceful in my experience, but a damselfish is going to be a damselfish. They will beat up on another peaceful fish at times, so you'll definitely want to keep an eye out in case you start adding new things. One of the best tricks you can do is add a damsel last. Like clownfish, damselfish do have a tendency to rearrange a tank, whether that's creating a sandstorm in the tank or moving small pieces of rock from one place to the other, so you can expect that. Number 4 on our list is the Firefish goby. Love these guys. Specifically the red Firefish goby, the purples, and even the Hellfrights. Those 3 will do great in a tank this small. They tend to swim in place, almost hovering above the rock, which does well in a tank this small. They are not travelers and do not need a ton of space. Once they dig their holes in the sand bed, you typically see them in that area forever, because they can dart back into that hole that they dug when frightened and or wanting to sleep. It's a very peaceful fish that gets along with any others. You won't see much aggression from them except against their own kind. Sometimes when you have groups of them together, you will see some nip fins every once in a while, but other than that, they do really well. Cons for the Firefish goby: it's not the hardiest fish you'll come by. Spikes in the tank or even bullying from another fish can cause these little guys to perish, so you will want to keep that in mind. They're also known to jump out of the tank constantly from just being in a new environment, frightened by another fish, or even just you passing the tank. They'll try to jump out, so make sure you have a glass lid covering everything on top. Lastly on our list is actually not a fish. This one is going to be inverts. Inverts do really well in small aquariums, as they are also very small. Hermit crabs and snails are a must, but look into something even cooler like cleaner shrimp. They got fire shrimp, urchins, emerald crabs, even Nassarius snails. There's a ton of different options out there for you to look into, even some small lobsters. They do not take much care at all to keep alive. You pretty much let them loose in the tank and they take care of themselves. They are usually hardy too, depending on which ones you get. So as a beginner, they are great to have if you want just something to look at that's crawling around the tank. They are a great go-to while you're getting the ropes. They keep your tank clean and healthy. These critters spend all day searching for detritus, algae, leftover food, and anything else they can get their hands on. So any kind of leftovers on the bottom of the tank that would cause spikes in your ammonia and your nitrates, your phosphates, these guys are going up there and eating it up for you. Now, just some cons on these. Some inverts can become really aggressive in the tank, leading to them hunting your fish when the lights go out. A coral banded shrimp is one of the worst when they get larger. I've even seen emerald crabs chasing gobies before. So be aware of what you're actually adding in the tank, and over time how they are still doing with your other fish. Less is better than more with inverts. You want to make sure you have plenty of food for them to eat. Otherwise, they will turn on your fish as a meal. So if you have a brand new tank with no nutrients growing in it yet, it would not be a good idea to go and add a dozen hermits in there together because they'll just end up going after each other. So you want to make sure you got plenty of food with how much inverts are actually coming into the tank. After that, that knocks out our top 5 fish that I would recommend for a 15-gallon tank. If y'all like this video and want to see more of it, please leave me a comment down below. It's a new series, something new for us to learn from. I always get these questions, so it's always good to put something out here like this. Thanks everyone for coming by and watching this brand new episode of All About. If you have another fish in the tank that wasn't mentioned in this size aquarium, please leave it down in the comments and let us know how it does. Also, if you have any additional questions, you can leave a comment or reach out to me on social media. My links are always in the description for y'all. As we do close out the 2022 year, I just want to thank everyone for being a subscriber, for liking my videos, and interacting with me on a daily basis. These videos and your opinions will continue to increase the strength of the saltwater community as we learn new things from each other every single day. Happy holidays, everybody, and truly, truly from the bottom of my heart, I thank y'all. Hey everybody, it's Brock, and today's video is sponsored by Dream Team Forever. Make sure to check out our website as we just released the first ever All About tees that feature 30 fish and inverts from the series. Click the link in the description to get some for you and your family.